Woman who feels a sharp pain in her ribs gets bewildering news from doctors. This proud Michigan mom would give anything for her family. Still, one brush with disaster years earlier made her fear for their future. After one rude awakening, she grappled with symptoms that neither her husband nor her doctor knew what to make of, until they were beyond the point of no return. On one summer night in 2018, Kelly Yakic awoke in a scream of pain. She whirled around to survey her bedroom, but didn't spot any kind of imminent threat. Still, her body throbbed. Kelly's shriek naturally roused her husband, John, as well. The Michigan couple had stuck by each other for years, though this outburst seemed different from all the other tribulations they faced before. Once his wife settled down, John checked on the kids. Fortunately, Kelly and John had 3 deep sleepers on their hands. The children slept through the ear-piercing scream, which was good news for everybody. Hopeful that he would soon return to sleep, John ambled back down the hall. Kelly rationalized that there were many possible reasons for her pain. Maybe it was a cramp or just a little bit of gas, but as she lay back down next to her husband, she felt like she was resting on a bed of nails. After a visit to the bathroom, Kelly tried her best to doze off. She could only stare at her alarm clock as her side pounded harder and harder. Clutching her ribs, Kelly feared a past medical scare had returned to haunt them. About 4 years prior, Kelly went through a surprise pregnancy. Unaware that she was expecting, she went through a harrowing delivery. Though her son Beau developed in an unusual position, he entered the world healthy and happy. Still, the traumatic experience was one Kelly never wanted to face again. The 41-year-old adhered to a strict regimen of contraceptive shots, so there was no chance of another surprise baby. But she wondered if the shock pregnancy left behind permanent damage. Neither Kelly nor John knew quite what to do, but one development made the decision for them. She started bleeding, quite a lot. Just a few hours before 5 a.m., the couple rushed to the emergency room. Once the medical staff stemmed the bleeding, they said they'd have to perform an ultrasound. That was the best bet of figuring out what was going on inside Kelly. Trembling, the mother of 3 prepared for the worst. Within minutes, the doctors shared a positive development. Kelly wasn't suffering from any kind of life-threatening internal injury. What shocked her and John, however, was the news that she was pregnant. Very pregnant. Kelly stammered that this was impossible. The experienced mom hadn't exhibited any symptoms of pregnancy, not showing off any baby bump whatsoever. She was still wearing all of her regular clothes. When Kelly asked when she was due, the doctor couldn't do much more than shake his head. He told the worried couple to prepare themselves because Kelly was already going into labor. The delivery would have to happen right at the hospital, which posed more than a few problems. Not a full-fledged medical center, the site didn't even have a maternity ward. Kelly's doctor admitted he'd only helped deliver 5 babies during his long career. Despite his inexperience, Kelly's pregnancy ended surprisingly seamlessly. She gave birth to a healthy baby boy and felt a huge wave of relief wash over her. Her long, painful night finally came to an end. As John held his newborn son for the first time, he and Kelly beamed at each other. They didn't expect to have a new addition to the family overnight. Still, the whole experience seemed to provide more questions than answers. It wasn't just that Kelly found out she was pregnant a bit late. She carried a baby to full term without experiencing any side effects until a few hours prior. How is this possible? Dr. Mary Jane Minkin, a gynecologist at the Yale School of Medicine, explained that this turn of events was rare but entirely possible. First off, Kelly's contraceptive injections allowed for a small chance of pregnancy. Then there was her medical history. Both of Kelly's surprise babies developed in an unusual position that was behind her ribs up against her back. This prevented many of the unusual pregnancy triggers from being set off and allowed the baby to hide as he grew. Once the shock wore off, Kelly and John were overjoyed to welcome their new child Gunnar to the family. As they sat down for dinner the next night, they joyfully dragged over one more chair to the table. Kelly learned firsthand that few pregnancies go exactly as planned. Through support groups, she was able to connect with other women like her who'd experienced something extremely traumatic. Two such victims were twins Jill Noe and Whitney Blazner, whose harrowing medical ordeal is so unreal it reads like a particularly twisted episode of Grey's Anatomy. Twin sisters Jill Noe and Whitney Blazner were as close as could be, and they swore to always be there for each other. At the same time, the two women were pretty different. No carbon copy twins here, and early on, a vicious disease threatened to tear them apart. Despite Jill's giving attitude to her sister, she had a serious competitive streak. She was a star point guard on Arizona State University's basketball team and was still in peak athletic form long after graduation. Her sister wasn't as fortunate. For many years, Whitney seemed just as happy and healthy as her twin, but troubling symptoms started to pop up at an early age. Her vision and hearing deteriorated, sending the family into a panic. Doctors diagnosed Whitney with type 2 neurofibromatosis, a genetic condition that causes tumors to spread across the nervous system. While the growths weren't cancerous, they did dramatically change Whitney's life. Specifically, the disease made Whitney partially blind in one eye and permanently damaged her hearing. Nevertheless, she took it all in stride and managed to find love. Pete Blazner was a dream come true for Whitney, who feared she'd never get the chance to marry after all her health scares. Jill proudly watched her twin tie the knot, and soon the two sisters were discussing the future. Both Jill and Whitney valued family, so the new bride knew all along that she wanted kids of her own. Her neurofibromatosis, however, made pregnancy a difficult prospect. Years passed as she and Pete tried in vain to conceive. By 2018, Whitney was 35 and running out of time. With the old-fashioned method failing them, she and Pete began considering adoption. A surrogate was another option, albeit an expensive one. Jill then approached her sister with an idea. The twins had long been close as could be, so wouldn't it make the most sense for Jill to be Whitney's surrogate? This gave the Blazers the best shot at a child, plus they wouldn't have to rely on a stranger. Tearing up, Whitney accepted her sister's offer. Using donor eggs and Pete's sperm, they underwent in vitro fertilization. The twins could only hope that this last-ditch effort would pan out. It wouldn't take too long for the good news to arrive. The procedure worked, and soon Jill was swelling up like a balloon. She and Whitney were so excited as they went in for an ultrasound. However, they didn't see quite what they'd expected. Everyone in the family had their hopes up for an image of a healthy baby boy or girl. Instead, they saw two fetuses there. The family was about to welcome their second straight generation of twins. This revelation blew Jill's mind. Though no pregnancy was easy, she now had to deal with carrying two babies at once. The hardened athlete had to admit that she had a daunting task ahead of her. That fear, however, was nothing next to the excitement she felt for Pete and Whitney, learning that they were expecting boys. The parents-to-be picked out names and ordered some custom onesies. Even the lucky mom and her surrogate got in on the custom clothing order. Naturally, they had to order very different sizes as Jill was in the thick of her final trimester. It wouldn't be long before the moment of truth. As trying as the conception was, the actual delivery went off without a hitch. Rhett and Renly were born in June 2019. The two sisters couldn't believe they got to experience such a special moment together. Jill actually felt grateful to be at the center of her sister's life-changing event. "It's my best friend, someone I've come into this world with, so it was really a no-brainer that I'd offer to be her surrogate," she said. Rhett and Renly were a joy for the entire family. Whitney and Jill expected that the twins would become as good friends as they were. The brothers had such a bright future ahead of them. And after everything Whitney went through, starting a family made all her struggles worthwhile. "I'm a mom now," she realized. There are no words to describe it. Of course, pregnancies have a way of surprising families, even when surrogates aren't involved. Just months after their wedding, Bethany and Tim Webb of Hythe in Alberta, Canada, were ecstatic to learn that they were going to have a baby. They'd planned to wait a year before having a kid, but couldn't help but be elated by the news. A few months afterward, during a routine visit to the doctor's office, the couple was asked an unexpected question. Did either of their families have histories of multiple births? Confused, Tim and Bethany both shook their heads. That was when the doctor gave the couple the shock of a lifetime. She turned the screen and she started counting babies, and she counted baby 1, baby 2, baby 3, Bethany recalled. You can stop at baby 3. Baby 3 is enough. And then she counted out the fourth baby. Bethany immediately started to panic. Obviously, quadruplets would be an enormous challenge, and one that was incredibly rare. In fact, in 2015, there were only 228 sets of quadruplets born in the entire United States. Most families with quadruplets had the aid of fertility treatment. There's only a 1 in 729,000 chance of having quadruplets naturally, so it was understandable that when Bethany and Tim shared the news with their family, they assumed they were joking. Of course, they were entirely serious. The couple quickly considered the logistics. Bethany said that she realized that we didn't have a vehicle that could support 4 babies. They would also need to temporarily move in with Tim's mother, as their 1-bedroom apartment simply wasn't big enough for 6 people. Their finances would be another issue. It's a costly affair to raise just 1 child, let alone 4. 4 strollers, 4 car seats, 4 cribs, diapers everywhere, Bethany said. All the while, the due date continued to loom. The pregnancy itself went well until, at 33 weeks, Bethany was transferred to the larger Royal Alexandra Hospital in nearby Edmonton for a C-section. It was there that the couple finally welcomed their daughters, Abigail, Emily, Grace, and Michaela, into the world. Remember how there was only a 1 in 729,000 chance of having quadruplets through natural means? Well, the Webbs were even luckier because the odds of all 4 of the babies being girls were just 1 in 15 million. There are few guarantees with any pregnancy, but each one of the Webbs' quadruplets was as healthy as she could be. I feel overwhelmingly awesome that the babies are here, Tim said. I feel blessed. Becoming a dad took on a special meaning for Tim, who had lost his father just a year before the quadruplets were born. Thankfully, he'd have plenty of chances to make his late father proud. Of course, nothing could help Tim prepare for being the only man in the house. He was largely outnumbered. Nonetheless, he was happy to have such a beautiful family, and he tried to take his role as a new dad in stride, exhausting as it might have been. Though the babies were a handful, Bethany and Tim were completely in love with their big family, and they made sure to see the silver lining in everything. Even when times were tough. At least we get one nice perk of it all, Bethany joked. It was nice that we didn't have to pick our favorite baby names. Despite being able to use all of their top name choices, the couple came across one unique problem. Trying to tell each baby apart, they needed to find some way to make the girls look visually distinct. Bethany and Tim developed a nifty color coding system. They selected yellow for Grace, purple for Emily, blue for Abigail, and pink for Michaela. Though those colors would change slightly, Grace would eventually wear red while Abigail wore green, for instance. They painted the girls' nails in designated colors, and the quadruplets would wear different colored earrings once they were old enough to get their ears pierced. Still, Bethany and Tim enjoyed matching their daughters' outfits. How could they resist? Thankfully, Bethany and Tim observed that their daughters all displayed different personalities right away. It was important to them that they addressed each of their babies' needs and recognized them as individuals. With their rare birth and individual quirks, the young quadruplets and their adorable photos quickly took the internet by storm. Of course, one baby would be cute enough, but 4 identical babies were another story. Fortunately, the Webbs' unique situation caught the eye of their local community. Caring neighbors in their hometown of Hythe set up a GoFundMe campaign to help offset the enormous costs. Some even held fundraisers for the family. As hectic as it might have been, the Webbs were dedicated, and they quickly found a routine that worked for them. I don't know what I would do without them, Bethany said of her beautiful family.